let me.
Excellent.
Here.
So I want to share what's actually helpful. So I'll share a little bit and then have plenty of time to answer and ask questions and things like that. So I'm Jen Kindsvatter. I serve as Director of Programs or the Camp Pastor for Lutherhill Ministries. Lutherhill is the camp and retreat center of our synod and of this church as well. I'm wondering if anyone's been to either the LaGrange site or the Galveston site. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Have you been to both? Or?
Yep.
Both. Excellent. So the LaGrange site was started in 1954 when basically kind of a cohort of Lutheran pastors got together and decided they wanted a place for kids to just go into the country and be kids, which is ironic because a lot of their parishioners were farmers at that time, so they were already out in the country being kids at that time, but they wanted a place set apart where they could work on faith formation, predominantly for middle school youth at that time with confirmation campers. And so in 1954, a pastor named M.B. Eilers found some land, and it was an old Phillips Petroleum pump station, and it was kind of greasy and used for oil preparation and storage. And he turned that facility into a camp for kiddos. So originally it was about 25 acres that they started with, and they transformed the original pump station into what now serves as our dining hall. And so for over 100 years, that has been in production, storing and fueling some sort of thing, either automobiles or children, one or the other. And then in 2007 is when we got the property from Galveston, and Zion Lutheran Church decided to close, and they donated their facilities first to the synod, who entrusted it to us. We remodeled, and now it's the 8-bedroom retreat facility. Which is a lovely place to be. So for camp, we predominantly do retreats and summer camp experiences. So we have 8 programmatic retreats throughout the year that we invite people to come and join us out at camp. And then we also do a lot of hosted events. So our hosted events, anyone can come, which is not always the case for some of our Christian camps that are neighbors to us. And so we get a lot of ELCA Lutheran churches, but then churches of multiple denominations. And then also we've recently grown in our ability to serve Muslim counterparts, so Muslim student associations, some Muslim community centers and things like that, which has been a great growing edge for us because it helps us learn how God is at work in the world in a different way, and helps us also expand our reach. So just this weekend, we had a group of about 30 young people learning about their Muslim faith. They came from colleges across the US, which is fun to think of Lutherhill as a gathering spot for that. So they've been there throughout the weekend. So retreats are a big part of our ministry, but the heart of our ministry has always been and will always be summer camp. And so we're gearing up for another summer of camp. We host 7 weeks of residential camp. And then last year we started a partnership in which we do 1 week of host camp. We partnered with a group called Camp Kesem. Have y'all ever heard of Camp Kesem? So they are a national organization that does camps for kids whose parents are going through cancer treatments. And so they are able to come to camp and just be kids. And so there are chapters of Camp Kesem at not every, but many state universities. And so we're connected with the University of Texas at Austin. So they do all the planning and provide the counselors and then come out and use our site as a camp facility. So it's really great because it's increased revenue that helps us keep the cost of camp low for all of our summer campers. And they're just delighted to have a place to host their camp. So during that week, we host day camps in 5 different congregations. So we have anywhere from 20 to 30 day camps in different congregations across our synod, now in the Southwestern Texas Synod, and also in the North Texas, North Louisiana Synod. So the farthest one we probably go to is we go to Plano now, which is a bit of a trek. And we have a day camp here at Christ the King as well. We're hiring summer staff right now. Our goal is to hire around 70 summer staffers. They vary in job responsibilities from our introductory summer staffers who are finished their junior year in high school, 17 years old, and get to kind of try out all the different aspects of camp. So they might be a camp hand or a kitchen assistant. They might be helping out on a day camp or a co-counselor in a cabin. And then we have a great kind of growth track for people to start when they're 17 years old and then go all the way up until they're ready to graduate college with some of our senior leadership positions. So if you know of anyone who is looking for a summer job, one of the common misconceptions about working at camp is that it's all fun and games. There are a lot of fun and games, but we've recently put together some interview kind of topics, and then also little quips to put on resumes about how working at camp can build your ability to enhance teamwork, to strategize, to problem solve, to work with people that are not always easy to work with. Hopefully that's not me, but other people. And then to do those kinds of things, just helping people understand that a summer invested in others at summer camp is really valuable work. So for our summer camp ministry, we anticipate hosting around 600 to 700 campers. We host everywhere from kiddos that are around 7 years old and have finished first grade for a half week of camp through our high school leadership program. So kiddos that are usually 15 or 16 and doing a 2-week program for leadership development and getting ready to be leaders at camp, but more importantly, continue to be leaders in their home congregation and in their schools and wherever God has called them to be. So that's our Lyle program, and it's really been a delightful way for us to continuously see God at work in young people, as well as in our young adult summer staff as well. So that's retreats and summer camps. Any questions about camp or where it is or what's going on at that part? Okay. So then the other thing I wanted to share is we've been in a capital campaign since 2019 is when it started, and then everything in the world changed in 2020. So we put the capital campaign on pause. It was never stopped, but it was put on pause for a while. And so we have just under $2 million raised thus far for the capital campaign. The total project is around $8 million. That includes a new dining hall facility, 3 cabins to replace cabins that would be displaced, and then also a new retreat facility as well. Our board of directors recently voted to rearrange the priorities of the project. Initially, it was going to be 3 cabins first, and then the dining hall, and then the retreat center once the majority of the funds were raised for that project. Now we've seen an incredible increase in retreat bookings, and so we're rearranging so that the retreat center goes first in hopes that it will continue to be revenue producing and help us offset the cost of other things. And so the retreat center will be built first, and then the dining hall will still remain a priority for us, and we'll just move through in that fashion. So that is one of the greatest ways to invest in the future of Lutherhill. Like I mentioned before, the camp was a Phillips Petroleum pump station, and the dining hall itself was where the pump station was. And so the incredibly resourceful people that started Lutherhill took that pump station and made it into a dining hall, but it was never meant to be a dining hall. It's one of God's great miracles that it can continuously produce nutritious food for our campers and our guests throughout the years. But it's really time to grow past that. Building the new dining hall will enable us to host the groups that want to come out and have them eat together. Right now we eat in shifts with half of our kiddos eating outside during the summer, half eating inside, because we can't seat everyone inside at this point. Eating outside is delightful, but not in July in Texas. And so having everyone be able to be inside would be really lovely. It also will enhance our ability to host large gatherings and also weddings. We had over the course of the Christmas and New Year's break, we had 2 weddings, and last year we had 14 weddings at Lutherhill. The chapel is beautiful with a breathtaking view. Right now, how we handle weddings there is that either it's ceremony only and they go somewhere else for the reception, or we have them all go to the deck for happy hour, flip it into a reception venue inside, and then welcome everyone back in. But there's some limitations with how many people we can host, how tolerant guests are, how much the weather cooperates, and those kinds of things. So the addition of the dining hall would also help us to be able to host receptions and that kind of thing as well. So those are some of the things on the horizon for Lutherhill. Thinking of anything. Oh, one of the projects that I'm really excited about is that we're going to break ground and renovate part of the chapel grounds to be a memorial garden. One of the congregations that closed in the Houston area had a memorial garden on their property, and they needed to find a place to transfer those remains. And so with an agreement with Lutherhill, we're transitioning so that the open part in front of the chapel, there's a semicircle rock wall and a garden area down there already, transitioning that into a memorial garden. Like you all have a columbarium here, but not all congregations have a columbarium or a place to scatter ashes. And so this will be kind of a open place where anyone who wants to can scatter ashes, or we'll have inhumation, which means that if the urns themselves won't be in a columbarium or buried, but the box of ashes that's biodegradable will be able to be buried in the ground. So we anticipate breaking ground on that part within the next couple of weeks, actually. So that will be really lovely. Some people ask with the memorial garden how it will be for campers to be around a memorial garden. And I think it's a beautiful thing for campers to learn early on. That death is not scary or something to be not talked about, but it's part of the circle of God's goodness for us, that we're returned to the earth from which we have been drawn. So yeah, so those things are happening. This is my friend Curtis. Curtis serves as our program director for Lutherhill. Yeah. So is there anything else? I don't want to just keep talking if there's not something valuable to share. If there's any questions or.
I missed the part about the memorial garden.
Yes.
How's that going along?
Yes.
How's the development of it?
So we have contracted with the landscape architect that's going to start in the next couple of weeks. Our project got pushed back a little bit because of all the rain and inclement weather. He had some other projects installed, but he's gonna get to work on that. So it will be in the area right in front of the chapel, and so it will be a continuation of the Communion of Saints. A lot of rural congregations have a semicircle or altar rail on the inside of their church, and then have a semicircle that is their graveyard on the outside of the church. And so the concept is that it's the continuation of the Communion of Saints. Those who are communing with God and receiving the bread and the wine on the inside are also communing with their ancestors that have gone before them. And so it'll be a similar symbolism for us as well. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to it. So
Yeah. So we won't, we've established that we don't want to have a vault or a columbarium necessarily, but it will be, we'll be able to either bury ashes, or we've identified an area in the woods right next to the chapel that will have a little bridge so people can go up to that area and scatter ashes as well. So, yes, we've learned a lot about this process.
Yeah.
So you might be aware, last year, Christ the King, we merged with what was Memorial Drive
Yes.
Lutheran Church out on Memorial on the west side. And you may have been there before. It's a beautiful campus, a declining congregation, but now we're all one congregation. But in terms of the campus itself and everything, we're still in the process of trying to figure out longer term what the future of the campus is, utilization and things like that. And I think some of the things that have come up, I'm involved in that to some degree. Some of the things that have come up have been around the idea of perhaps having a linkage with Lutherhill going forward. They were still very early days, but have you been, are you all aware of that, or have you been involved in any of those discussions yet? I don't think a lot has gone on other than conceptually.
So my spouse Matt serves as our executive director. He's in February 1st, he will have been at camp for 22 years, which always is just a delightful thing to remember. So he served the last 10 years as our executive director. And I think he's been in conversation with some of the folks from is it the West Campus?
Yeah, we have a team that's managing the merger, both the near term things and then maybe a little bit longer term. So
Yes.
probably talk to some people.
So I think he went for a site visit and conversations with folks about the potential, kind of dreaming still
Right.
about the potential of a camp in the city kind of option. Our day camps have seen tremendous growth over the past several years, and it's a really great bridge for kiddos to get comfortable with Lutherhill and then hopefully come out and be residential campers. But even in and of itself, congregational day camps are a huge part of our ministry. One of the greatest things I think, one of the greatest gifts of the day camp ministry is that a lot of congregations have a void in young adults within their congregation. And we have an abundance of faithful young adults that are very faithful. And so having them go out to other congregations and be present there is really quite a gift. So I think Matt is continuing that
Yeah,
conversation.
I think it's a great opportunity because I think you'd reach a much different, more diverse demographic.
Mhm.
And as you said, you know, if they can get introduced to Lutherhill close to where they
Yes.
live. And then get excited about
Yes.
that might build even further
Mhm.
to having them come out to Lutherhill.
Yeah, and it's an incredible location too.
Well, so in a similar vein, so the Latin pastors of our synod, we've been talking about this because. I know last year when we were trying to figure out what kind of a gathering we could have for some of our youth. During the summer, I mean, the consistent issue we had is like where cost prohibitive, right? And recently we've been talking and I said, you know, we should consider. Really just trying to find ways to link up with camp. The issue is cost prohibitive for a lot of these congregations and. Yeah, one in particular, Ministry of the Foxes in Pasadena, most of the congregation is extremely impoverished. So I'm wondering, have there been any discussions in terms of scholarships available to help reduce the kind of the financial burden on some of these?
Yes, so we have a campership fund, and so there's, last year we gave out almost $50,000 worth of camperships, and it's open to anyone who would like to apply. It's usually the struggle for us is finding the linkage so that people trust us with their children. And that's been some of the cultural
The day camp was a great idea, but overnight stuff is,
Yes,
because again, I agree, cultural issue.
yes,
I know my mom would have said, if this was option, she said, no, a day thing, you're coming back home. 7 o'clock, I need to hear. Right down the
I
thing.
did this trusted person in the congregation, so like if there was a trusted person in a specific cause that could vouch for Lutherhill
Yeah.
and maybe come with the kiddos. Then that would give us considerably more credibility, but the resources are there. We have a lot of people that go specifically to the campership fund, because they want to make sure that any kid can come to camp that wants to.
See, this is very helpful. Can we talk
Yes,
afterwards? I have a couple ideas I want to pitch to my colleagues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We actually established a good partnership last year with an organization. It's called Lutherhill Ministries. Burton is a little bitty town, really small, in between Brenham and LaGrange. And the church there, Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Greenvine, is making a really intensive effort to make sure that they resource kids in that area.
Cindy, Pastor.
Yes.
Yeah,
Cindy, real quick.
classmate.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So Cindy's working really hard on that. Last year, Burton Bridge did a day camp with Lutherhill Ministries. So they put on the day camp, and then they bused kids from all over Burton. So kiddos that would not have had access to be able to come to camp normally. They went to the day camp at Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Greenvine. They bused them over to Lutherhill for a pool party. Some of the kids had never been in a pool before, and so that was really fun to experience and to be part of. And then we were able to give 10 camperships for kids to come to camp after that. So once they had built the trust through going to the day camp and been on site, then there was a little bit more trust there. So yes, there's.
Percolating now.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions, or Chris, do you want to add anything?
I was gonna ask a question.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Ask Pastor Singh.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What's the meaning of light?
Is this a count?
42.
42.
Oh, 42. That is balance.
If there aren't other questions, I'm trying to think of other notable things that we can share. I think, things are going really well with the Galveston Retreat Center. It's, self-sufficient at this point in terms of, the income from hosted events are covering the expenses, which is pretty remarkable considering how expensive flood insurance is in Galveston. And so it's not producing a lot of additional revenue for Lutherhill, but it is offering a unique space on the island. And we're getting a lot more traction with hosted events there. During the summertime, it's pretty much full the entire summer with week-long stays, and that's really been a delightful thing.
Council retreat's gonna be there in
Yes.
February.
Yeah.
Church council.
It's a great.
I love the building. I'm wondering if. Are there any additions to the building that are in the works that you guys are thinking about, maybe reimagine? As great as the space is, any continued reimagining of how this retreat center would look like and what,
Yeah.
how its functioning would be in various spaces?
They've done a little bit of work, is the maintenance staff with Lutherhill. So we only have one part-time person on the island that staffs the retreat center, and our maintenance staff oversees both facilities. So our maintenance staff has done some work with an outdoor worship area. If you're looking at the front of the facility to the right in that gated area, and so enhancing that a little bit, but I'm not sure if any other additional. Do you have something in mind?
I'm just saying, that no, because the times that I've been there, perfect,
Yeah.
it's excellent. No, I'm not an architect, so I was.
Yeah. It's, the space is really good for a group of like 16 to 20 people that want to do some worship time, a lot of fellowship and meal time, that kind of thing. And then when I've had groups there before, we walked to the beach, so it's about a mile from the retreat facility to the beach. And the gift of doing that, especially with youth groups, is that most of the sand falls off them on what home to the
Yeah.
retreat center. It's also a mile from Schlitterbahn, which is really fun for youth groups as well. Or adult groups, I'm not going to make that choice for you.
Well, we had our Latin women's retreat there.
Yes.
And it was, everyone loved it, they loved the facilities, kitchen,
Yeah.
places, and we did exactly that, went to the beach.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
perfect.
There's great accent there. That was, Curtis served as the program director at the Galveston Island Retreat Facility before coming to be our program director in the great.
Well, thank you, Jen.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have additional questions, there's some information.
Yeah.
If you do know anyone who would like to apply for summer staff,
Yeah.
there's a little flyer there, and definitely talk to Curtis about that. They don't have to have ever come to camp before. One of our really all-star staffers last summer had never been to camp as a camper, and just had a friend in one of his classes in college that said, hey, you need a job this summer. You can work in camp." And he was an excellent addition to our staff. So they don't need to know about Lutherhill, they don't need to have been a camper in the past, they need to be willing to learn new things, most of our staff have some kind of faith background, but that's not an absolute requirement. We have places that they can live in Christian community, and discern what they would.
Have you talked to Ben Remmer?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's been, beating the bushes and advertising. We've got a whole
Yeah.
page in the banner every month.
It's so great to see like the support that you guys have
Yeah.
with your bulletin or the.
Oh, the Kindsvatter, our
newsletter.
newsletter,
To
yeah.
see two full pages is remarkable. I'm really appreciative of the
Yeah.
support.
Yeah. We're fans.
Great work.
No, it is great
Look,
work.
Ben.
So many, no, he's the best. Or y'all are the best, he's second. He's second. You're, yeah.
There's some more information about summer camp and retreats and stuff like there too. Curious.
Thank you. All right. Thanks so much, Jen. Thanks, Curtis. Thank you all.
Probably, yeah, I think it'd be a great